Welcome back, students and my dear friends, in the process of learning Economics ISC Class 11. I refer the book Frank. You can refer any of the book which you have. My videos are helpful for those who try to learn economics by themselves. That is for the students who are basically preferring self-study, self-learning, and who are not willing to go for any extra tuition, extra coaching, because I believe my videos will help you in such a way that you can yourself go through the entire chapter according to my process, according to the simple explanations, and complete the lessons yourself itself. So let's begin. Let's begin with Chapter 5 Solutions to the Basic Economic Problems under the Different Economic Systems. And what are the economic systems we have already seen? Developed, developing, capitalistic, socialistic, and mixed economy. So let's begin with the capitalistic economy first. As is given in the lesson, what is capitalistic economy? Capitalistic economy we have seen in the previous chapter 4 that it is the economy where the private sector plays major role in taking the all economic decisions. Thus, the mechanism which they implement for solving the basic economic problem is price mechanism. And what is price mechanism? As the name says, price mechanism is something about the price, a mechanism about the price. Let's see the definition. Price mechanism is a mechanism in which prices play a key role in directing the activities of producers, consumers, and resource suppliers. So here capital in capitalistic economy, what is the main thing? Price. And this price is the key role for all the economic activities for whom? The producers, the consumers, and the resource suppliers. Let's see how this price mechanism works. For understanding price mechanism, we have to understand two main things. First is the price. So what is basically a price? A price is basically the value tag on any object, which is on all goods and services. We all know that goods and services carry price tags. So this is the price tag, looking at which we can say that this is the price or the value of that particular object. So goods and services are available at prices because it involves cost in producing. Now, have you ever thought that why goods and services are being tagged with prices? The reason why goods and services are being tagged with prices are, the first answer is cost. So what is the answer? Cost. Because for producing each and every good and services, you bear certain cost. So if you want to sell that goods and service in the market, you won't be selling it something below the cost. You will have to sell it anything above the cost. Considering all those factors, we put a value, we put a price to the particular commodity. That is the price tag. Prices are determined through impersonal market forces of demand and supply. Now, what is this impersonal market forces of demand and supply? These are automatic forces of market. One is the demand by the consumers, one is the supply by the producers. So, whenever the demand becomes equal to the price, demand becomes equal to the supply of the commodity, that is a place where we can say that it is the equilibrium position for the market. Thus, equilibrium price is achieved. So what is equilibrium price? Equilibrium price is the price at which the quantity demanded becomes equal to the quantity supplied. That means where D becomes equal to S. Now let's see. First of all, what did we say? That what is the main thing in price mechanism? First is price. So why do we need price? We need price because every commodity has some cost in getting produced. And then what is that? When the demand forces of the market becomes equal to the supply forces, that means where the demand of the commodity becomes equal to the supply of the commodity, that is the particular value of the good and service, which is known as the price, rather the equilibrium price. And this price determined in the market is by the impersonal forces of demand and supply. So this is the price, and this entire process is known as price mechanism, where due to impersonal forces of demand and supply, when the demand becomes equal to that of the supply of the commodity, that is the price which is known as the equilibrium price for that commodity. And thus this process of determining price is basically the main concept of price mechanism. Now let's see the second part. What is market? Market forces of demand and supply we have seen. Now what is market forces? Market is basically a framework where the buy and sell of goods and services take place. So how do we define market? A market is a system or a setup in which the buyers and sellers, not two entities, buyers and sellers of a commodity, are able to interact and communicate with each other or strike a deal in, that is, price and the quantity to be bought and sold. Now, what is the market? Market is basically a framework wherein two entities, one is the buyer and other is the seller, they meet each other. Either they can meet physically or virtually. That is not mandatory. But the buyers and sellers, they meet each other to determine what? To determine the price of the commodity. That means to determine at which particular quantity the quantity demanded by the buyers will be equal to the quantity supplied by the suppliers, and that particular price, it will be basically the equilibrium price. So market is that setup. How many types of market do we know? There are mainly two types of market. One is the goods market and the other one is the factor market. Goods market is where we actually sell the final goods and services. What is the factor market? Factor market is the market where the factors of production are being sold. Obviously, when you need to produce any goods and services, you can just not produce without the factors of production. What are the four factors of production? Land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. These are the four factors of production. So there has to be some market where even we can go and get the labors, where we can go and get the capital. So this market where we can go and get, or where the buying and selling of the factor of production takes place, is known as factor market. Okay. Now let's see some of the functions of price mechanism. Now that we have seen what is price, what is market, let's see the price mechanism. First, it is instrument for determining the level of economic activities. Why is price mechanism an instrument for determining what? Level of economic activities. What do you mean by level of economic activities? That means what production, consumption, saving, investment, technological development, etc. should be taking place in the economy. How is it helpful? Price mechanism helps us in deciding that. For example, price mechanism will help you in the type of production, the quantity of production, and thus price mechanism will also help you in knowing that consumption, the pattern of consumption, as well as the quantity of consumption, which particular price. So price mechanism is basically important over here. Then coordination of economic decisions. It is the price mechanism only which basically coordinates the free enterprise economy through system of prices and market. Remember, we are in what? We are in capitalistic economy. So in capitalistic economy, price mechanism, that is the demand and supply, the functions of demand and supply, then getting to know the price of the particular commodity is very important, which coordinates various other economic decisions. In free enterprise economy means basically the capitalistic economy. Why? By coordinating the demands, the coordinating and the supply decisions, we basically reach what? We reach the prices. And by knowing the decisions about the prices, we come to know about the decisions of the consumers and the producers through this price mechanism. So there is a equilibrium, there is a stability. That means to take the correct decisions about the correct price. Third is guiding force for consumers. Think about yourself. If you know what is the price of a commodity, that will help you in deciding about the purchase consumption pattern about that particular good and service. If you are not aware or if you do not know about the price of that particular commodity, it becomes very difficult for the consumers to make several decisions. This is what guiding force for consumers. Let's see. Like price mechanism is what? It also decides about the composition of the consumption expenditure. Since becomes a very important thing, how much we have to spend on goods and services, that is basically dependent on the price of the particular commodity. More the price, lesser the price, everything will affect about the consumption expenditure. What is consumption expenditure? The amount which you are spending on consuming the goods and services, that entire volume of amount is known as consumption expenditure. the amount which you are spending on the consumption of goods and services. So basically, price mechanisms through the help of the determination of price also guides us to determine our consumption expenditure. Level of income determines the total consumption expenditure by the households, which in turn determines the total purchase of consumer goods in the economy. So, what is said over here? Since you are aware of the price of the commodity, since this price is getting determined by the automatic flow of demand and supply, now that you are also aware that your income is fixed, the level of income is already provided for the consumer, so it becomes easy for making various decisions on the consumption pattern. You know that your level of income is 100, the price of the commodity is 10, so you will be knowing that how much out of this 100 income shall I spend on that 10 rupees price tagged commodity. So this is how we determine the consumption expenditure. Here this is said over here, given the relative prices of different goods and services, consumer decide what quantities of various goods to be produced. Now that you know that good X is 10 rupees, good Y is 20 rupees, and your income is 100 rupees, for example, then it will become easier for you to decide how much on which commodity to make the expenditure. This is what is known as consumption expenditure, and thus it guides the consumer. Fourth, determination of factor incomes. We have already seen there are two kinds of market, factor market and the goods market. So price mechanism not only helps guides the consumers how to buy the goods and services based on the prices and the income of the consumers, it also helps to value evaluate or to tag a value to the various factors of production, like how much a labor should be paid, what is the cost of the capital to be purchased, and this is only possible with the price mechanism. Just like normal goods and services market, we also have factor market. Let's see this. We have seen that price mechanism works on two things. One is the price demand as well as the supply. So let's put price over here and the quantity demanded over here. As demand is inversely proportional, the demand graph will look somewhat like this, which you will study in future. Now supply curves look like this. Now what we are concerned more about is over here we are not going to see in so much detail currently in this chapter. We will just see what we require right now. We require a stage where this demand will be equal to the supply. That means we are particularly looking at this kind of position where demand will be equal to supply, and this will be basically the price of the particular commodity. So this is the way how we decide the price. Now this graph or this system, this price mechanism is not only for the goods and services which we consume, which we are thinking of the final goods and services. This is also applicable for the factors. As I said, the four factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. For factors also this is available. This is applicable. How come? Over here, suppose in the factors, we keep labor. That means how much labor is demanded and how much labor is to be supplied. So wherever this labor demand, labor supply meets at the particular wage or the particular price of the labor, that will be basically determined as the factor price. Understood? So it is not only about the final goods and services, it is also about the labor. That time labor is the good, because now we are talking about the factor market. So if this is about the factors of production, then this particular graph or this mechanism is about which market? It is about the factor market. Determination of factor incomes. Thus, it also helps the price mechanism helps in determining the remunerations paid to different factors of production, like wages, rent, interest, and profit, depending on the supply and the demand of that particular factor. Price mechanism also Price mechanism is also guide to the producers. It is guide to the consumers. It is also guide to the producers. As they are aware of the cost of the factors of production, they are now more properly guided to decide about the profit maximization goal to achieve the various goals which they are working for. Especially this is in What? Capitalistic economy. In free enterprise, that is in capitalistic economy, producers operate with the objective of profit maximization. So profit maximization, that means to maximize the profit is only possible if the producers are aware of the correct prices of the goods and services to be sold in the market. Also, if they are aware of the correct factor prices to be paid for the various factors of production which they are using for their production processes. Then allocation of resources depending on the price mechanism only. That means since the producers and consumers, everybody knows what about the price of the commodity. So it helps the producers to allocate the scarce resources carefully, diligently, depending on the price determined. That means allocation of the scarce resources in production of various goods and services so as to maximize total output. 7. Determination of savings. Consumers in capitalistic economy enjoy freedom of choice of consumption as well as saving. So, since they are aware of this price mechanism, this price is getting determined by the automatic flow of demand and supply in the capitalistic economy. So, what happens? According to the consumption expenditure, consumers can take better decisions about what amount to be spent from their income on that particular commodity based on the price of the commodity, as well as what amount to be saved. So, it guides in them to take a better savings decision also. Rate of interest is determined in the factor market. Similarly, this prevails in the factor market. In factor market also, the rate of interest is determined. Rate of interest where it is applicable on the capital market. De- because of the price mechanism, even in the capital market where the demand of the capital, supply of the capital, where it is the perfect match where they are meeting, that is the rate of interest decided for the capital. Just like for labor we have wages, for land we have rent, for capital we have interest. The same thing will be applicable there. 8. Bringing flexibility in the economy. Now, price mechanism brings a huge flexibility in the economy because it is all about the demand and supply. So there is nothing fixed over there, automatic flow of demand and supply. So, based on the consumer's demand, based on their taste and preferences, based on the consumer's demand, based on the producer's flexibility of their goods and services production, wherever they are in their comfort zone, which they both are satisfied and content with, so there will be the price which it will be determined in the market. So there is a huge flexibility. There is no predetermined price which is applicable in capitalistic market. Thus, economy responds to various changes which ensure smooth functioning of the economy. And then it depends very easy to respond in various kind of different scenarios also. Now let's see how this price mechanism in capitalistic market basically becomes the solution tool or a tool to solve economic problem. So next topic is price mechanism as a tool to solve economic problem. How can we solve the economic problems? And what were the economic problems? The three main economic problems, do you remember? Yes. First was what and how much to produce. Second was for whom to produce. And it is how to produce. Okay, now let's see. Let's begin with the first one. What and how much to produce. So we all know what and how much to produce is basically about determining that which commodity to produce and then in what quantity. But then how is it different in this capitalistic market? How this price mechanism helps to determine to make the decisions of what to produce? It is because that the consumer is regarded as the sovereign king in capitalistic economy. We have read this that consumer is the sovereign king. The demand of the consumer, according to that only, the producers they start acting because of the competition in the capitalistic market. Thus, in a capitalistic market economy, expenditure of the consumers on which commodities they are willing to spend their income ultimately decides they what will be produced by their spending. So, what is the meaning of this entire sentence? The meaning of this sentence is that determining what commodity to be produced is mainly in the hands of the buyers, the consumers. which commodity they want to consume, depending on their taste and preferences, depending on the other factors which will affect their demand. Whichever commodity they prefer, that particular commodity is the one which the producers aim to produce for. Because if the producers are determined to consume product X, all the producers in the capitalistic market will be concentrated in producing product X only. Because if they do not meet the consumer's demand and they start producing some other product Z, then the demand of the X product is not being met by the supply of Z product. There is a mismatch. So there will be instability. So the first problem to be solved in the capitalistic economy, what to produce, is based only by the consumer's choice. Based on that, producers decide what to produce, and based on the amount of demand, they decide how much to produce. Now, few things to be seen over here. Taste and preferences of the consumers through markets reflect the prices they are prepared to pay. As we know, that taste and preferences, depending on the taste and preferences, consumers will be ready to pay more or less depending on their taste and preferences for the particular commodity. Higher the demand of the commodity, higher will be the price. More is the demand of the commodity, more will be the price of the commodity. Higher will be the producers motivated to produce that particular commodity. Why it is so? It is said in capitalistic economy, the higher the demand from the consumer's end. That means more is the demand from the consumer as there is a huge competition within the consumers, that single product or a single type of product is in huge demand. So with due to the competition among the buyers, the price of the particular commodity starts increasing. Think of a scenario when you know that there are some very tasty chocolates available in the market, but then the number of people wanting that chocolate is too much. That means everybody's taste and preferences are now inclined towards that particular brand of chocolate. Slowly, eventually, this particular brand of chocolate price starts rising because the people demanding are more. This is what they are trying to say over here in capitalistic market. Higher the demand of the people, higher will be the price of the commodity, and more will be the profit from the suppliers at the supplier's side. As we know that more is the price, more is the profit of the supplier. Higher prices will motivate the producers to produce more in order to earn higher profits. This is how price mechanism helps in determining the uh, type of the product to be produced and also the quantity. Similarly, a decrease in the demand for the particular commodity will bring down the price. With a fall in the price, when you see uh, when there is no demand in the market, automatically there are lots of stock of that chocolate. Suppose there is another brand of chocolate which is of lesser demand. So what will happen? There are lots of stock, but people demanding that particular stock will be less. Therefore, the price of the commodity will fall. Let's see. First, what to produce? First, we decide what to produce, a first thing, and then how much to produce. So, in order to decide what to produce, first we have to see it is from the consumer side and it is dependent on the taste and preferences. If the taste and preferences of the consumers is towards the brand X, then producers and the type of the chocolate and the for example we are talking about chocolates now, if the type of the choice of the consumers for the chocolate is X and not Y, then the producers will be more inclined in producing the type chocolate X is and not chocolate Y. Why? Because they are producing for whom? They are ultimately producing for the consumers. If they do not prefer Y, then they will produce Y. Secondly, now how much is the demand? Suppose the demand in the market is 100. 100 people are demanding this particular chocolate. Then the producers will also try to produce 100 And what if the producers right now they are producing only 70, but they increase because of the preferred taste and preference of this chocolate, the demand is getting increased. So supply is now 70 and demand is 100. That means the consumers want more and more of chocolate X. What will happen when the demand is high? This is what they are talking about. When the demand is high, that means the producers are still under the process of making over this supply and meeting this supply in such a way so it becomes equal to the expected demand. But in the meanwhile, what is happening due to the increase in the demand, the price also increases. Okay, because stock is less and the demand is more. This is what they are talking about. And when the price starts increasing, eventually these producers who were still producing 70, they will be motivated to produce more, and they will ultimately come to produce minimum of 100. So here again, see, in this price mechanism system where demand again becomes equal to supply, this is the way the price is also determined, as well as the question to the first problem, that what to produce is also determined, and secondly how much to produce is also determined. That means they have to produce 100 because that is the best at which the economy is at equilibrium, the market is at equilibrium. This is the way they are talking, this is what they are talking. Secondly, in the second scenario, they spoke about if the demand is less. In the second scenario, they have spoken that if the demand is less, that means if the supply is more in the market, but people have started demanding less, then what will happen? So many extra stocks are already there in the market, therefore, the price of the particular commodity will start falling. When this price of the commodity starts falling, eventually the suppliers either they stop producing or they leave this particular market. So automatically the supply will also come down, and on one fine day again it will become equal. So this is how in capitalistic economy the first basic problem is solved. Second is how to produce. That means which technology to implement, whether the capitalistic technology or the labor intensive technology. So what is the thing which is done in the price mechanism, through price mechanism or in the capitalistic economy, is that producers will produce using the cheapest method of production or the most efficient technique of production, because in capitalistic economy their target is profit maximization, to earn maximum profit. So this is how producers will decide whichever factors of production are cheapest. On the other hand, they are most efficient also, so that the producers can achieve their maximum profit target. So that is the way they will decide how to produce, whether to go for the labor intensive technique or whether to go for the capital intensive technique. And then they will see whether labor is easily available, capital is easily available, and secondly, even if it is easily available, whether it is efficient enough to produce what they are looking for. Third, for whom to produce. The last decision or to solve the last basic problem is for whom to produce. That means we have already decided what and how to produce, and how much to produce with what technology. The next question is for whom to produce. As we know that this is a capitalistic economy. So distribution of the goods and services and for whom to be produced is mainly targeted to the people who will ultimately give profits to the producers. So here is the decision. In the process of production of goods and services, incomes are generated as factor incomes. This we all know, that while the goods and services are being produced, that we are using labor, land. So suppose if labor is used, the labor is getting income in the form of wages. So this is what they are talking about. In the process of production of goods and services, incomes are generated as factor incomes. Now price mechanism helps in determining distribution of total output. How price mechanism, the demand and supply helps in distributing the total output, that is who gets the goods depend upon how much income people possess. Therefore, distribution of total output, whatever number of output has been produced by in the economy or in the capitalistic economy, that distribution of output depends highly on the background history of what, how the wages or the various factor incomes were distributed. That means the section where the higher wages were distributed, they will be getting more number of output. There, the distribution of output will be more, because since they have got the higher wages, they will be able to afford more goods and services. Depends upon the distribution of income. Okay, so it is like this, that first of all, everybody is being paid because of the factor services. The entire wages which we see in and around us, people getting, that is what, because they are giving wage labor services. The entire employment which is being done in the economy in various forms, whether it is in the private sector, in the public sector, people are getting wages because ultimately they are giving their labor services, they are giving their factor services for producing goods and services, either good or services in one or the other form. They are getting wages. This is known as the distribution of income, when they are getting paid for their income. Higher the distribution of income in one section, that particular section will be demanding more, and thus the output which is again produced in the economy will be given them more. That section where the distribution of income is very less, because of the wage pattern, if a certain section of the society is being paid less, then the output, the final goods and services which are produced in the economy, there the output also be distributed in a lesser quantity. So this is how the distribution of income, or for whom to produce, decision is taken. They have given you example over here. For example, wage is the price of service of labor. Interest is the price of service of capital. These factor prices are determined in the factor market. We have already seen that how the factor markets are determining the prices depending on the demand and supply of the labor in the market. So, factor income is determined through the price mechanism in the factor market. People get paid according to the contribution to the output produced. People get paid according to their contribution of factor services. The better the factor services they provide, they will be paid higher. The skilled laborers are obviously paid higher than the unskilled labor. This is one of the example. Their income reflects the value of their resources. That means what resource they are possessing, income will decide that. Higher income people, that means their resources are of higher value. So once this income is distributed, depending on the income which they have, they will thus demand also in the market, and likely on the distribution of the income, people of the richer section will be getting higher quality, or the larger number of goods and services, or the output produced in the economy. Thus, a very equal distribution of income, or a fair distribution of income, creates a fair decision about the decision through the price mechanism about for whom to produce. In a free enterprise capitalistic economy, incomes of different individuals are very much unequal. Some we have seen in the capitalistic economy, like there's a there are like two class of people. Some are very rich and some are not that rich. As a result, this unequal distribution of income, the distribution of goods is also very much unequal. The rich people get a large share of the national product, that is the total volume of output which they were talking about, whereas the poor people get a very small share of the national product. Now, quickly we will see some of the conditions required for price mechanism. That means price mechanism is the mechanism of capitalistic economy, but there has to be certain conditions also. First is existence of competition. Why? Because it's a capitalistic economy. That's the first thing. And secondly, if there is no competition, then there won't be changes in the demand and supply also. There will be stagnant demand, stagnant supply. Therefore, existence of competition is very much essential for the smooth functioning of this price mechanism. Cost reflecting the sacrifice. Cost, we have seen what is price. Price is because every commodity has some price, or the cost to be borne to produce that particular goods and to particular commodity. Now every commodity has some sacrifice associated with it. That means some sacrifice associated with the scarce resources. Because of the scarce resources, we are using some other resources to produce that particular commodity, and there are also side outcomes, side sacrifice effects on the society once we start producing certain goods and services. So when we are talking about the price mechanism, when it is very essential that the price of the commodity should also reflect the sacrifices made behind the production of that commodity. It is essential that the price should be true reflection of the sacrifice made by the society in terms of resource used in the production of various commodities. Now, what does this mean? Some students ask that what does this mean? Cost reflecting the sacrifices. Some goods and services require huge cost, like minerals. Now, minerals are getting depleted because of so much excessive use of the minerals for fulfillment of the uh, demand of the people in various forms, that minerals, the natural resource, is getting low, slowly depleted. So this is a cost which the society, which entire economy is bearing. Therefore, those products associated with the minerals as their raw product will be tagged as with higher prices, and thus when it is higher price, only a limited people will be demanding it. So this is where we are talking about the cost reflecting the sacrifice. These things, goods and services which do not require so much of sacrifices, obviously they will be at a moderate or a general prices. Then demand reflecting needs. Demand should be associated with the need. Then only allocation of the resources for production of that particular commodity should will be meaningful. There is possibility of misallocation of the resources if the demands are not according to the needs. Mobility of resources, that means the resources should be mobile enough. Suppose if it's a labor, then it's a labor, it should be mobile enough that because of some condition, if there is change in any demand in the market, then the producer should be able to utilize the particular section of labor and not only production of any one commodity, it can be easily mobile enough to be shifted for the production of other commodity. Then also it becomes very easy for the functioning of the price mechanism. Then the demand and supply becomes smooth enough. Otherwise, there will be irrelevant spike in prices, wages. Next is correct anticipation of the demand. By the correct knowledge and understanding the trend of the particular goods and services in past, proper anticipation of the demand should be done. Then proper quantity production should also be done. Otherwise, there is a possibility of overproduction or underproduction. Non-economic conditions, there are various non-economic conditions which affect the price mechanism, that is the demand and supply, which are like the legal system, the property right system, law and order in the country. So the non-economic conditions should also be favorable, or at least it should be in a stable condition so that the price mechanism can work properly. No interference by the government. Price mechanism, as we have seen, is a free flow of demand and supply. Therefore, interference by the government will not actually lead to the correct price mechanism. It will be a price which will be determined by the government. So there will be no price mechanism at all. So these were the conditions on which price mechanism works. Now let's see an evaluation of price mechanism. Evaluation of price mechanism is how to understand whether the price mechanism is in support, whether in favor of the economy or not. So there are a number of reasons. First, price mechanism solving economic problems. So price mechanism in capitalistic economy helps in solving various kind of economic problems by the correct decisions about the production, consumption, investment. So it acts as an elegant device for taking the decisions about these things. Then coordinating and organizing force. Price mechanism not only coordinates in the free capital market mean it not only coordinates the basic demand and supply, but it also organizes forces like a very large number of people with different interests participate in working for such economies, there is chaos. But price mechanism is an instrument in a free market enterprise, that is in a capitalist market enterprise, where the consumers, they are aware. The consumers are the deciding factors. The buyers, they are aware what to buy, what they are willing to buy. Therefore, what happens in price mechanism? The large number of producers, they are being guided by what? They are being guided and coordinated by the forces of the large number of people who are demanding something, who have a particular inclination towards goods and services according to their taste. Therefore, coordinating the needs and the demands of the consumers using the forces of demand as well as the forces of supply, price mechanism helps to take a better decision. Promotes social welfare. Social welfare over here means we have seen that socialistic economy in previous chapter is the socialistic economy which works under the direction of the central supervision, mainly targeted for the social welfare. But how price mechanism promotes helps in promoting social welfare? Because it is said that uh, it has price mechanism works efficiently and effectively so as to ensure maximum welfare of the society through, though individuals are motivated by self interest, all the producers are motivated for profit maximization, the consumers are going for the best consumption expenditure based on their income, so everybody is motivated by their self interest. But while promoting their own personal interest also, they are by default promoting the welfare of the entire society as a whole. Preservation of individual freedom. The price mechanism has advantage because consumers are free to decide which commodity they would like to consume. Similarly, the producers are also free to take the decisions regarding the production. Last, we will see about price mechanism, that is limitations of price mechanism. Price mechanisms sometimes have failed functioning properly because of certain limitations. Decline in the competition. If there is decline in the competition in the market, like under perfect market, where the large number of buyers and sellers, so basically there are very less competition within that kind of market, then the price mechanism. Under perfect market competition, what happens? Perfect market competition, where we have seen there are a large number of buyers and sellers, so everything processes very smoothly and the prices are determined. But in real life, in practical life, the competition is not so perfect. Most of the time monopolistic or monopoly market competitions exist, and then they lead to higher prices, lower output, and misallocation of resources. Second limitation is consumer sovereignty is a myth. So we have seen that consumer is has the sovereign power of determining what to consume, and thus they are the primary elements in making the price decision for the price mechanism as to what to produce by the suppliers. But in real life, in practical life, nowadays, what is happening in the capitalistic market, that this is actually becoming a myth. Why? The big businesses are able to influence and motivate or manipulate the wants of the consumers by huge expenditure on advertisement, propaganda, and salesmanship. That means if the big businessmen, they have launched a new product X, they will propaganda it, make the promotion in such a way, they will launch the product in such a way that even if the consumers, they were not willing to purchase this commodity, they are not in need also of purchasing this commodity, they will be automatically diverted towards the consumption of this particular commodity. So now this is becoming a myth that consumers have the sovereign power in taking the decisions. Then, individuals may not be the best judge. So, consumers' his choices are influenced by impulses, prejudices, ignorances, and sales promotion measures. Therefore, consumers cannot be the best cannot be said to be the best judge for making their own decisions. They are highly getting influenced by the producers and other external factors. Thus, it again creates problem in the price mechanism. The actual estimation of the demand and actual estimation of thus the supply becomes difficult. Social welfare may not be maximized. Now, since everybody is motivated for the self interest, one is motivated for the income, and the other one is motivated only for the profit maximization. So, there becomes ultimately a huge income inequality in the society. People tending for getting higher wages and people tending for getting higher profits ultimately creates income inequalities in the economy, giving more purchasing power in the hands of the richer people, and the demand of the goods which they can afford, that kind of goods demand increase, and thus the price mechanism again becomes unstable. It is not flowing in a smoother way, and resources are getting misallocated, mostly for the production of the goods and services which the richer people demand. Fifth is inequality in the distribution of income and wealth. This we have already seen, because of the self interest, because of the excessive self interest, because of the huge competition in the price capitalistic market. What happens? Income gets distributed unequally. That means some richer people, some highly skilled people, they are paid very much high, and the other people, the lower unskilled people, the lower wage earners, they keep on getting lower incomes. Thus, this creates a huge income inequality, and this income inequality keeps on making the richer than the poorer. Thus, wealth accumulates in only few hands. This is also because one of the main features of capitalistic market, which was the right of inheritance. Richer become more richer and the poorer become more poorer. Economic instability, because of the various trades of the business cycles, that is the progressive, then regressive, then again prosperity. These are the various cycles of types of business cycles. The business cycles are booms, depression. These were the business cycle. So alternative periods of booms and depressions creates again huge instability, and in unfavorable price mechanism functions. What happens? Boom gives rise to the problem of inflation. That means more and more uh, prices will rise. People will be demanding more, so prices will rise. Boom means economy is in the prosperity, so people start demanding more, and the price of the overall price of the economy for all the commodities increase. This gives rise to inflation. Secondly, depression means what? The economy is going through huge unemployment, huge financial crisis, human miseries, and then again it creates very much unfavorable fluctuations in the economy, in the income output and employment. And this price mechanism has no inherent way to basically solve these kinds of booms and depressions. Low profit areas neglected, as we have seen that because of profit maximization motive, the producers are very least motivated or to produce goods and services which can be provided in the backward regions or to the low income category people, because they do not earn higher profits there, so they always get neglected. Last is production of public utilities neglected. Since everybody is targeting for their own profit, so production for public utilities will require huge investment that will give lesser profit. Production goods for public utilities, they require basically huge investments like electricity, sanitation, transportation. They are used by large number of people. Their production, it requires huge cost, but the returns, the prices they are tagged with are usually very nominal. So this gives lesser profit to the producers, and therefore they are least motivated to produce things which are of public utilities. So these were the limitations of the price mechanism. Now we will see the solutions to the basic problems under socialism, which is under socialistic economy. What was socialistic economy? Socialistic economy was one which was wherein the economic activities are centrally planned, controlled, and regulated by the central authority, which is the government. So first thing, first problem, what to produce and how much to produce. As we know, this is planned and guided, supervised by the central authority or the central government, with that is the government of the economy or the nation. Therefore, most of its decisions are aimed at what? for the welfare of the entire economy, for the welfare of the society. So first, what to produce, it will be guided by what decision will be taken. Authority makes an estimation of the available economic and human resources in the economy. Whatever the resources are there, government will first estimate it, the amount of resources which are available in the economy. Then it will assess the needs of the people and the national priorities. So what is the thing? It will assess the needs of the people as well as the national priority. After that, it will determine the resources which is available for fulfilling the various needs according to the national priority. Then it will decide which particular good or service to be produced, that too how much to be produced. That is, it will determine the product and then the size and the quantity of the product. Next problem, how to produce. Now since it is by the decision of the government tries to make the best possible decision so that the entire resources or all the resources are utilized in their best possible way. So the central planning authority decides on what, that is, the types of techniques to be used by the planning authority has to be done is done based on the availability as well as the efficiency. So for this, it utilizes those resources and in such a way that the resources are fully utilized. That means it is not only aimed for the like unlike the capitalistic economy where they were choosing the cheapest factors or the techniques giving the best efficiency. Here it is not that. Here it is for the economic efficiency, for availing the economic efficiency, as well as the main objective is for the full utilization of the resources available. That means none of the resources should be wasted or be idle. So this takes into consideration what, the social objectives and developmental goals while choosing the techniques of production. Social objectives, that means if maximum resources or the full utilization of the resources are done, that means more and more employment opportunities will be increasing, more and more social welfare will also be increasing. Then last is for whom to produce. Again, at last, for whom to produce. Unlike the capitalistic economy, wherein according to the distribution of the income, the richer people becoming more richer, and thus most of the output or the products were given for those people who used to earn more. Here, in the socialistic economy, what is the difference? How much wage is to be paid to different categories of the laborers is determined first by the government. So the income thing is also determined by the government, and government determines the wages in considering what, by the quantity and quality of the work done by the workers. Therefore it gives a fair chance that all the workers or most of the workers will be getting fair wages. That is, skilled worker get higher wages than the unskilled workers. Workers who get more wages are able to get more goods and services. On the other hand, workers who get less wages get less goods and services. For from each according to his capacity and to his according to his work. Therefore, principle of distribution of income in a socialism economy works on this: from each according to his capacity and to each according to his work. It is said, fair enough, whosoever will be giving more work towards the production, that person will be paid higher and will be getting more. However, in socialistic economy, equitable distribution, since we have seen that workers' wages are decided by the economy, therefore equitable distribution system is done, and fixing of these wages is determined for different categories of the workers. That means government automatically decides, and not only according to the work which they are giving, government predetermines the wages, keeping in mind that almost every worker whosoever is working, obviously it is a equitable distribution. It does not mean that if the person who is working less will get higher wages, not like that, but there will be a balance, and it's not that only the people of skilled sides will be getting too much higher wages and the people of the unskilled labor category will be very very less wages. No, there will be an equitable distribution so that everybody can have their own demands and then fulfill their own needs. Therefore the distribution of output can also be done in a equitable way. Thus, in short, we can say that the socialistic economy, there is actually no role of price mechanism because the entire planning is done by the government. Now, looking at the mixed economy, we have seen what is mixed economy. Mixed economy is the economy wherein you can find the features of both capitalistic as well as the socialistic economy. So now that we know how capitalistic economy decides or makes decisions for the basic economic problems and the socialistic economy makes decision, we can club those features over here. For example, in what to produce, in the private sector of the mixed economy, price economy works. Whereas in the public sector of the mixed economy, where major decisions are taken by the public, in the mixed economy, their decisions are taken by the government. The production in the private sector is also controlled and regulated by the government through monetary, fiscal, and price control policies. Therefore, what to produce is determined both from the consumer's benefit point of view as well as from the producer's benefit point of view. How to produce? Now, unlike extreme socialistic and extreme capitalistic economy, in mixed economy, the decision of how to produce, the firms will choose method of production on the basis of factor prices because profit motive is always there for the private sector. So therefore, they will choose what? They will choose the least costly and the most efficient technique. But the public sector in the mixed economy, they will be working as per the planning and control of the government. For whom to produce, then the price mechanism is used to solve the problem of for whom the outputs shall be distributed. And similarly, the other decisions by the government is done so as that some equitable distribution of income is also done previous to this, and therefore the output is also divided in a equitable manner. So what we see that in public sector, this decision for whom to produce was taken by government, that we have seen in the socialistic economy. The main objective of the government is to ensure that adequate quantity of necessity is also produced. The government thus controls the production of private sector as well as to achieve his objective in ensure the availability of the necessities. So thus we see that for whom to produce, as far as the mixed economy is considered, people with higher income will be able to get larger share of the national income product, obviously because they are the people who can afford more. But even the people in the lower income category will not be left unattended. As per the government decisions, the prices are also fixed accordingly, both the factor prices as well as the commodities prices, so that even the necessity items are also affordable and even the necessity items are also produced by the producers. So this was the completion of chapter 5. Thank you, friends. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Please stick to my channel because I will be completing the syllabus of economics ISC CBSE class 11 and 12.